Okay, guys, I need to get this off my chest because I'm literally going insane here, and I don't know who else to talk to about this nightmare. So, my husband David just up and left me 3 weeks ago. 15 years of marriage down the drain, just like that. But here's the absolutely messed up part. I'm stuck paying off this massive $47,000 loan that somehow has my name all over it, and he's already moved in with some girl from his office. Like, already. We're talking about a guy who took 6 months to decide on a new couch, but he managed to pack up his entire life and move in with someone else in what feels like 5 minutes. They're posting these disgustingly cute couple pics on Instagram. Yes, I'm stalking them, sue me, while I'm literally eating ramen noodles for the third night in a row and dodging calls from debt collectors who somehow have my personal cell number. The contrast is so stark, it feels like a sick joke. But listen, something is seriously, deeply off about this whole situation. And the more I think about it, the more terrified I become. David used to be the guy who couldn't remember where he put his keys 5 minutes after setting them down. This is a man who once wore completely mismatched shoes to work for an entire week because he was too scattered to notice. He needed GPS to get to places he'd been driving to for years. But suddenly, in the last few months before he left, he became this incredibly organized mastermind. Every single paper filed perfectly, every bill paid exactly on time. Even our mutual friends somehow already knew he was unhappy in our marriage before I had even the tiniest clue anything was wrong. Looking back now, it's like he became a completely different person overnight, but I was too trusting to see it happening right in front of me. And get this. I keep finding these weird little notes scattered around our apartment, just seemingly random numbers and dates scribbled on scraps of paper, tucked into books, stuck between couch cushions, even folded up in old jeans pockets. At first, I thought they were grocery lists or work reminders or whatever, but now I'm starting to think they mean something much more sinister. Like he deliberately left me a puzzle to solve, except I genuinely don't know if I want to know the answer. What if the truth is worse than not knowing? The worst part about all of this? Everyone keeps telling me I should just move on and focus on healing and let him go live his life. But I can't shake this overwhelming feeling that I'm missing something absolutely huge here. Like, why would someone who supposedly just fell out of love go through all this elaborate trouble? Why not just sit me down and ask for a divorce like a normal, decent human being? The more I replay the last year in my head, the more I realize how many weird little things happened that I dismissed at the time. David insisting on handling all our finances to reduce my stress. Him suddenly wanting separate checking accounts for better budgeting. The way he started working late constantly but never seemed tired. How he'd get this weird, almost panicked look when his phone would buzz and I was nearby. I'm probably being paranoid and overthinking everything because I'm hurt and angry, but my gut is absolutely screaming that this whole thing was carefully orchestrated from the very beginning. And if I'm right about that, then I have no idea what I'm actually dealing with here, or how deep this betrayal really goes. Update. Holy crap, you guys. I just found something that changes everything. Calling my sister now. Update 2. Guys, I don't know where to start, and I'm honestly not sure I'm ready to face what I discovered, but I have to tell someone before I lose my mind completely. My sister Rachel came over after my panicked phone call, and we spent the next 4 hours systematically going through every single piece of David's remaining stuff. What we found has me questioning everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my husband, and apparently my own ability to judge reality. Remember those seemingly random notes I mentioned? The ones scattered around our apartment that I thought were grocery lists or work reminders? Turns out they weren't random at all. They were account numbers. Bank account numbers for accounts I've never seen before, never heard mentioned, never knew existed. We're talking about multiple accounts across different banks with substantial amounts of money sitting in them. Money that should have been considered ours during our 15-year marriage, but somehow it's all exclusively in his name only. But wait, guys, because it gets so much worse than I could have ever imagined. My sister convinced me to log into our joint credit monitoring account. Thank God we never got around to closing that thing after our last financial review. And guys, David has been systematically, methodically destroying my credit score for months. Like, this wasn't impulsive or accidental. He took out credit cards in my name using information only a spouse would have access to, maxed every single one of them out to their limits, then somehow managed to transfer all of those debts into that massive loan I signed. I genuinely thought I was helping him consolidate some legitimate business expenses when he presented me with those papers. Turns out I was literally signing away my entire financial future while he watched me do it with a straight face. The man I trusted with absolutely everything. My heart, my money, my future, my dreams. Literally spent months carefully planning my complete financial ruin while sleeping peacefully next to me every single night. While I was making him his favorite coffee every morning and asking about his day at work. While we were casually talking about maybe taking that European vacation we'd been saving for next summer. While I was doing his laundry and cooking his meals and being a devoted wife to someone who was systematically destroying my life behind my back. I called the bank about the loan today, and here's the part that made me actually throw up. The loan officer remembered David specifically because he came in alone multiple times over several weeks to finalize details, dozens of detailed questions about what would happen if the primary borrower, that would be me, defaulted or couldn't make payments. He basically spent weeks researching exactly how completely screwed I would be, like he was writing a manual for destroying someone's life. My hands are literally shaking so badly, I can barely type this. I trusted this man with my entire life. We used to talk about growing old together, about what we'd do when we retired, about the house we'd buy someday. I held him and comforted him through his mother's cancer treatment last year, stayed up with him during the worst nights, and he was planning this the entire time? How do you comfort someone and plan their destruction simultaneously? But here's the absolute worst part that has me crying so hard I can barely see my keyboard. I found receipts. Dozens and dozens of receipts carefully filed away in a folder I'd never seen before. Receipts for expensive jewelry that I never received, romantic dinners at places we never went together, weekend getaway trips that I was never invited on, flowers and gifts and experiences, all paid for with money he was essentially stealing directly from me through credit fraud. He was literally romancing his coworker with my credit while sitting across from me at our kitchen table, telling me we needed to tighten our budget and be more careful with spending. The girl from his office? Jessica? They didn't just magically start dating the day after he left me. Based on the dates on these receipts and some text message screenshots I found, yes, he was careless enough to print some of them out. They've been together for at least 8 months. 8 full months. I was worried about him working so many late hours and actually bringing him dinner to his office building like the devoted wife I thought I was. And he was probably upstairs laughing about my pathetic devotion with the woman he was planning to leave me for. I called 3 of our mutual friends tonight, people I thought would be shocked and supportive and outraged on my behalf. Guess what? Not a single one of them seemed even remotely surprised by any of this. Apparently, David had been telling people for months that our marriage was complicated and that I was difficult with money and controlling about finances. He was carefully, strategically setting up the narrative so that when he finally left, everyone in our social circle would think it was somehow my fault that I drove him away. That poor David just couldn't take it anymore. I feel so incredibly stupid. So devastatingly, completely stupid. There were warning signs everywhere, literally everywhere I look now, and I missed all of them because I was too trusting, too naive, too willing to believe the best about someone I loved. The way he suddenly started handling all our bills himself to reduce my stress during busy season at work. How he convinced me we should have separate checking accounts for better budgeting and financial independence. The way he'd get this weird, almost panicked look and quickly turn his phone face down when it would buzz and I was nearby. But my sister found something else while I was on the phone with the bank, And this is the part that made everything click into place in the most horrible way. Hidden in the very back of his desk drawer, underneath some old tax documents, she found a printed email thread from some legal advice forum. David had been asking detailed questions about prenups and asset protection and how to shield personal wealth in case of divorce, and whether debts accumulated during marriage would automatically follow the non-working spouse after separation. This wasn't a sudden decision, guys. This wasn't him falling out of love or meeting someone new and making impulsive choices. David planned every single detail of this betrayal months in advance, maybe even longer. And the absolute worst part? I helped him execute his plan perfectly because I loved him completely and trusted him without question. I don't even know who I was actually married to for 15 years. The man who held me when my father died, who learned to cook my favorite meal when I was sick with the flu, who cried actual tears during our wedding vows and promised to love and protect me forever? Was any of that real? Or was I just married to an actor who was already mentally planning his exit strategy from day one? The person I thought was my soulmate, my best friend, my partner in everything, was actually my worst enemy, wearing the mask of someone who loved me. How do you recover from that level of deception? How do you ever trust anyone again when someone can lie that perfectly for that long? Edit. I'm getting lots of DMs asking about lawyers. Yes, I'm calling one first thing Monday morning. But honestly, I'm not even sure what I can realistically recover at this point. He was so thorough, so careful, so systematic about everything. Edit 2. To everyone asking, yes, I'm documenting absolutely everything, taking pictures, making copies, organizing it all chronologically. My sister made me promise not to throw anything away, no matter how much it physically hurts to look at. Edit 3. Someone asked if I confronted him. I tried calling him twice. Both times it went straight to voicemail, and when I tried to leave a message, the mailbox was full. He's completely ghosted me. Update 3. Guys, I've been going through absolute hell this past week, but I think I finally have a concrete plan. And if I execute it correctly, it's going to completely destroy David's perfect little new life and expose him for the fraud he really is. First, some updates on the legal front that gave me hope. Turns out David wasn't nearly as smart as he thought he was being. Because we were still legally married when he opened those secret accounts and executed his elaborate financial scheme, I'm entitled to half of everything he's been hiding, including all that money he's been secretly stashing away. My attorney says we have what she called an absolutely rock-solid case for fraud, identity theft, and financial abuse. And David could potentially face serious criminal charges that might include actual jail time. The prosecutor she referred me to seemed genuinely excited about the case because apparently the paper trail David left behind is so comprehensive, it's like he documented his own crimes. But here's where things get really interesting, and where I realized I might have more power in this situation than I initially thought. I did some serious digging. Okay, fine, maybe some extensive stalking across multiple social media platforms on his new girlfriend. Her name is Jessica. She's 28, and she works in corporate compliance at a major financial firm. Basically, her entire professional life revolves around ethics, financial regulations, and identifying exactly the kind of fraudulent behavior that David specializes in. She has absolutely no idea who she's really dating, what he's capable of, or what he did to me. Her LinkedIn profile talks about her passion for protecting consumers from financial predators. And her company bio mentions that she's won awards for identifying internal fraud. The irony is so thick I could cut it with a knife. She's literally sleeping with the exact type of criminal she's paid to catch. I found her work email address through her company's directory, located her personal social media accounts, even figured out where she goes for her morning coffee. Same place she posts Instagram stories from every Tuesday. I crafted what I thought was the perfect message. Professional but personal, concerned but not vindictive, with just enough concrete documentation attached to prove that David is a systematic financial predator who has done this before and will absolutely do it again. I attached copies of the fraudulent credit applications with my forged signature, Screenshots of the hidden account statements showing the money he stole from me. Even photos of those romantic dinner receipts where he was spending my credit on dates with her. I explained everything about his pattern of behavior, how he manipulates and isolates his victims, how he builds trust just to destroy it for his own financial gain. The message was perfect. It was compassionate but factual, protective but not possessive. It would have opened her eyes and potentially saved her from going through exactly what I'm going through right now. My finger was literally hovering over the send button, my heart pounding with a mixture of righteous anger and anticipated satisfaction when I completely chickened out like the pathetic coward I apparently am. What if she didn't believe me? What if David had already poisoned her against me, told her I was crazy or obsessive or vindictive? What if she looked at my message and just saw a bitter ex-wife trying desperately to destroy her ex-husband's new happiness? What if she forwarded my message to David and he found some way to use it against me in the legal proceedings? The fear and self-doubt completely paralyzed me, and I closed my laptop instead of sending the message that could have changed everything. That was 4 days ago, and I have been hating myself more and more with each passing hour for being such an absolute coward when it mattered most. Meanwhile, David is quite literally living his absolute best life without a care in the world. I've been hate scrolling through their social media posts. I know it's unhealthy, but I can't stop. And they went to that ridiculously expensive steakhouse downtown last weekend. The same place he told me we couldn't afford for our 15th wedding anniversary last year because money was too tight. Jessica posted a whole story about having the most thoughtful, generous boyfriend ever because he surprised her with last-minute tickets to some weekend getaway resort that probably cost more than I make in a month. Here I am, eating cereal for dinner for the 6th night in a row, and letting calls from debt collectors go straight to voicemail because I can't bear to hear how much money I supposedly owe, while he's playing Prince Charming with money he literally stole directly from me. It's like being forced to watch someone else wear your clothes and get complimented on how amazing they look while you're standing there naked and humiliated. My sister keeps telling me to focus on the legal proceedings and let karma handle the rest. But karma is taking way too damn long, and I need him to feel even a tiny fraction of the humiliation and betrayal that I'm drowning in every single day. I want him to know what it feels like to have someone you trust completely destroy your life without warning. So I made a new plan. A much better, more direct plan that doesn't rely on emails or messages that I might lose my nerve about sending. I found out exactly where Jessica works. It's in this big corporate building, only a few blocks away from that trendy coffee shop David used to take me to when we were first dating. I've been going there every single morning this week at exactly 8:15 a.m., right when she walks by on her way to work, hoping to accidentally run into her in what would seem like a completely natural, unplanned encounter. I practiced exactly what I'd say, how I'd introduce myself, how I'd bring up David naturally in conversation, how I'd plant just enough seeds of doubt and concern to make her start asking the right questions about her supposedly perfect boyfriend. I had the whole conversation mapped out in my head, casual but purposeful, friendly but warning. But every single time I see her walk by, and yes, I definitely recognize her from her profile pictures. She's even prettier in person, which makes this somehow worse. I completely lose my nerve and freeze up like a scared child. I just sit there gripping my coffee cup so hard my knuckles turn white, watching through the window as this unsuspecting woman lives the life that David essentially stole from me. And I do absolutely nothing to warn her or protect her or save her from the same fate I'm suffering. Yesterday was by far the worst attempt. I actually worked up the courage to follow her into the parking garage of her office building. I realize exactly how crazy and stalkerish that sounds, but I was desperate. And when she accidentally dropped her car keys right in front of me, I was literally right there. It was the most perfect opportunity imaginable to start a natural conversation, to introduce myself as someone who was concerned about her well-being, to begin the process of opening her eyes to who David really is. But when she looked directly at me and smiled this genuinely warm, grateful smile and said, "Thank you so much," after I picked up her keys and handed them back to her, I just completely froze. I mumbled something like, "You're welcome, no problem," and then practically ran away like I was fleeing a crime scene. I spent the entire drive home calling myself every horrible name I could think of and crying so hard I had to pull over twice. Here I am with concrete evidence that could completely destroy David's new relationship, with knowledge and documentation that could save this innocent woman from the same devastating betrayal that I'm living through. And I'm apparently too scared and pathetic to act on any of it. What kind of absolutely worthless person does that make me? The really sick, twisted part that keeps me awake at night? I think David knew I would react exactly this way. He knew me well enough after 15 years to understand that I'd be too terrified of looking crazy or vindictive or obsessed to really fight back effectively. He counted on my fear of confrontation, my need to be seen as the good person, my complete inability to be ruthless when ruthlessness was required. Even his betrayal was calculated around my specific weaknesses and personality flaws. I keep staring at that unsent message sitting in my drafts folder. It's all right there. The truth, the evidence, the warnings, everything Jessica needs to know about who she's really dating and what he's capable of doing to people who trust him. But every single time I think about actually sending it, I imagine David's reaction. I can practically hear him laughing at me. Poor, pathetic name. Still too scared and weak to stand up for herself, even when she has every right to. Maybe he's completely right about me. Maybe I really do deserve everything that happened. Last night, I spent about 20 minutes staring at myself in the bathroom mirror after another evening of crying over credit card statements and debt collection notices. And I barely recognized the person looking back at me. When did I become someone who was too afraid and cowardly to save another woman from a known predator? When did I become someone who would rather suffer in silence and let other people get hurt than risk looking foolish or vindictive? David didn't just steal my money, my credit, and my future. He stole my backbone, my self-respect, and my ability to fight for what's right. Edit. A lot of you are telling me to just send the message or talk to Jessica directly. I know you're all right. I know I should do something. But it's not that simple when you're actually living inside the situation and drowning in self-doubt. Edit 2. Someone DM'd me asking if I think Jessica might actually know about David's past and just not care, or if she might even be involved somehow. God, I really hope that's not true, because then what does that make me? The idiot who got played by two people working together? Edit 3. For everyone asking why I don't just call the police, I did. They said it's a civil matter and I need to handle it through divorce court and civil litigation. Apparently, financial abuse between spouses is really hard to prosecute criminally. Final update. Guys, I need to tell you how this story really ends, because it's not what any of us expected, and I'm honestly not sure I'm ready to face what I've discovered about myself and my own past. I never sent that message to Jessica. I never had that coffee shop confrontation I kept planning and chickening out of. I spent weeks torturing myself about being too weak and cowardly to act, calling myself every name in the book, wondering if I somehow deserved everything that happened to me because I was too pathetic to fight back. But yesterday, something shifted in a way that has completely shattered my understanding of reality. I was going through more of David's hidden paperwork with my lawyer, trying to build the strongest possible case against him, when I found something that made my blood run cold and made me question everything I thought I knew about my own life. There were other women. Not just Jessica. Not just me. David has done this exact same thing before. Multiple times, over many years. The same precise pattern. Love bombing during the courtship phase. Marriage or serious long-term relationship. Gradual financial control and manipulation. Secret accounts and hidden assets. Then disappearing with maxed out credit in their names while they're left financially destroyed and emotionally shattered. I found printed emails going back at least 7 years where he was systematically researching his potential victims, carefully planning his exit strategies, even sharing detailed strategies and techniques with someone else who was apparently running the exact same type of long-term financial scams. They were treating it like a business, discussing the most effective psychological manipulation tactics, comparing notes on which types of women were easiest to control and exploit. One email thread from about 3 years ago made me physically sick to my stomach. David was literally bragging to this other person about how easy it was to manipulate what he called desperate, lonely women, and how the key was to make them feel special and important first, then gradually make them doubt themselves and their own judgment. He referred to it as the long game, and said the payoff was always worth the extended time investment. But here's where everything gets infinitely more horrifying and confusing. Hidden in the very back of one of his file folders, behind some old tax documents, I found something that has left me questioning my entire sense of reality and my own memories. There was a spreadsheet, an actual, detailed spreadsheet with columns for names, ages, estimated credit scores, approximate net worth, homeownership status, family situation, and something called emotional vulnerability rating. My name was on there, listed with a vulnerability score of 9/10, with notes that said extremely trusting, conflict avoidant, and unlikely to retaliate effectively. But I wasn't the only name on that list that I recognized. There were other women I knew, women I had met through David over the years, women he had introduced me to as friends or colleagues or neighbors, women I had coffee with, shared stories with, even comforted through difficult times in their lives. Women who had gone through devastating divorces, financial ruin, emotional breakdowns that I had attributed to bad luck or poor choices. And next to each of their names were detailed notes about their psychological profiles, their financial situations, their emotional weak points, information that could only have been gathered through extensive, intimate contact. Information that looked exactly like what David had collected about me. The most terrifying part? Some of the entries had completion dates. Dates that corresponded to when these women had their lives fall apart. Dates that matched up with periods when David had been working late, or traveling for business, or helping a friend through a rough patch. I've been staring at this spreadsheet for hours, and I'm starting to remember conversations differently. Times when David would come home and tell me about a coworker going through a messy divorce, or a neighbor who was having financial troubles. Times when he would suggest I reach out to these women, be a friend to them, help them through their difficult situations. Oh God, I think I was helping him. Not consciously, not intentionally, but I was part of his system. I was the warm, sympathetic friend who would show up after he destroyed these women's lives. I was the one who would listen to them cry, who would offer comfort and support, who would help them rebuild, while David gathered even more information about their vulnerabilities for future reference. I wasn't just David's victim. I was his unwitting accomplice. Those random notes I found scattered around our apartment, the ones I thought were account numbers he accidentally left behind? Looking at them now with this new context, I think they might have been communications, codes or signals between David and whoever he was working with. Messages I was supposed to destroy or forward that I didn't understand the significance of. The loan in my name, the credit cards, the financial ruin. What if that wasn't just David stealing from me? What if it was part of a larger plan that I was supposed to be involved in? What if David expected me to disappear with him, but then decided Jessica was a better long-term partner for his schemes than I was? I'm starting to have flashes of memories that don't make sense with the story I've been telling myself. Conversations where David would come home excited about deals he was working on. Times when he would ask me detailed questions about the women I was befriending, what they had told me about their finances, their relationships, their fears. Moments when I felt proud of being helpful, of being part of his success. What kind of person was I? What kind of person am I? The most horrifying realization is that I can't tell anymore what's real and what might be false memories or paranoid delusions brought on by trauma. Did I really not know what David was doing? Or have I been lying to myself this entire time? Was I genuinely his victim? Or was I his partner who got discarded when I was no longer useful? When I think back to all those times I comforted his previous victims, I remember feeling not just sympathetic. There was something else. A sense of superiority, maybe? A feeling of being special because I was the one who had David's love and loyalty, the one who was safe from the kind of devastation these other women were experiencing. Did I enjoy it? Did I enjoy being the stable, successful wife while these other women fell apart? Did some part of me feel powerful knowing secrets about their lives that they didn't know I knew? I can't trust my own memories anymore. I can't trust my own emotions or motivations. The woman who was too scared and cowardly to send a warning message to Jessica, is that who I really am? Or is that just another role, another mask to hide the person who helped David destroy innocent people's lives? If I was David's partner, then Jessica isn't his victim. She might be his new accomplice. And I might have spent weeks feeling sorry for someone who was actively helping to plan my destruction. The saddest, most terrifying part is that I don't know how to find out the truth. I don't know who I can trust to help me figure out what's real and what isn't. I don't even know if I want to know the truth. Because what if the truth is that I'm exactly the kind of person I've been afraid David was? What if the real moral of this story isn't about trusting the wrong person, but about discovering that you've been the wrong person all along? I wanted justice. I wanted revenge. I wanted to be the hero of my own story. But what if there are no heroes here? What if there are just different types of predators? And some of them are better at lying to themselves about what they really are. I'm turning off notifications and won't be responding to comments or DMs. I need to figure out who I am and what I've actually done. If you think you might have been one of David's victims and you recognize any details from this story, please contact the FBI. There's apparently a case number now. Edit 2. To everyone asking if this story is real, I honestly don't know anymore. I don't know what's real about my life, my memories, my relationships, or even my own thoughts and motivations. Maybe that's the most honest answer I can give you.